Alright, everybody, I'm just going to pick up where I left off, basically, with one thing that I made the comment in my last video is just that, astrology is not new. In fact, it's millennium old, and many ancient cultures, and sadly even today, they still use astrology. I mean, it's just a part of life. And yes, they knew the mapping of the stars and everything else. That was quite common. It was not new to Nostradamus. He was well versed in astrology. I mean, if you just look at his bio, I mean, not so much his predictions, but his bio, I mean, they all openly profess, yes, he was well versed in astrology and astronomy and all that. I mean, it was just part of his education. He had a very unique education for a child and a person of his time period. Okay. Also, in the Nostradamus 2012 video, they go off on a thing where the magnetic poles of the Earth might get mixed up or move around and stuff. Okay, and then they said, well, our satellites will stop working and all of our computer technology products will stop working because the magnetic pole will shift and everything else. And my only comment about that is, oh, what a shame. Oh, we have to stop using our computer. We have to stop using our cell phones. You mean we actually have to talk to each other? You mean I actually have to talk with my children who live in the house that I don't talk to? You mean I actually have to converse with them and share with them? Oh my goodness, what a shame. One of the big things, and yes, this is on the internet, yes, this is on YouTube. My thing is that, we, as people in the West, we really need to slow down a bit. And we really need to get to know the people around us, and without the help of technology. Okay? We should. Okay, now, this particular documentary that I'm speaking about, Nostradamus 2012, technically this is part 2 of another documentary that the History Channel did a few months back. You think about it. There was the Lost Book of Nostradamus. Now, if you remember that documentary, it said, or they found this book somewhere in Europe, France, I think, and it had Nostradamus' name on it, and it had a series of pictures. I think there was like 12 or 16 or 20 pictures. And first of all, I was unimpressed by those pictures because I had a completely different interpretation of what those pictures meant. But my thing is that basically this new documentary, Nostradamus 2012, was basically part 2 of that first documentary. So really, I'm not impressed. All they did was just respin it in a different direction. Okay, now, one other thing that I found rather odd, and you'll notice this if you watch the video, he says, or they quote Quatrain 948. I don't know how to properly say it. Okay, they tied that quatrain with Hurricane Katrina. But there's a major problem. If you look, and they write it out on the episode, so take a look at this segment when it gets to it. They were saying, well, this is Hurricane Katrina. But it said in that quatrain, it's happened in the winter solstice. Hurricane Katrina was in August. Nowhere near the winter solstice. Not even in winter. I mean, even for Louisiana. So they're contradicting themselves. By their own quote, they're contradicting themselves. So that doesn't work. I mean, they're just making it fit into what they want to make it fit when it itself doesn't work. Look at it. Okay, the other one, and this is just my personal spin on this one, Quatrain 129. And again, they quoted in the video. Look at it. Doesn't it sound more like a submarine? Look at it. I mean, if you TiVo it or recorded it, okay, when they get to that section, let them roll through it a couple of times. Wouldn't it be more of a description of a submarine? Okay, and last, or not my last point, but they talk about earthquakes. That's not new. Okay, the Bible, both Old and New Testament, talks openly about earthquakes and stuff like that, and there should be earthquakes, in various places, and worse than this and worse of that. That's not new. That is not new. So, they talk about that. That's not new. Okay, and my last point, they talked numerous times about eclipses. Well, I looked those up, and my first part is they talk about the sun rises up in the center of the universe once every 26,000 years. Really? I find that extraordinary and incredible. 26,000 years, that's the first time, or it's the first time in 26,000 years. I'd really want to see some charts and stuff on that, because that's incredible. I mean, okay, so I took it a step further. I did look up eclipses, both solar and lunar eclipses, for the year 2012, and no surprise, because eclipses are quite common. There will be 2 solar eclipses in 2012, and there's going to be 1 lunar eclipse in 2012. The solar eclipses, there is going to be one on November 13th, 2012, but the thing is just that what they don't tell you, of course they won't tell you, is that yes, the eclipse will happen, but it will just barely touch the northern part of Australia and then float out into the Pacific. It won't even touch New Zealand. So really, for Central America and the Americas, we won't really notice a difference. So that doesn't hold water. That's the closest date to 2012, December 21st, 2012. So that doesn't hold water. Now, there's going to be a lunar eclipse closer on November 28th, 2012. That'll be a lunar eclipse. That's closest we can get to the summer or the winter solstice. So again, it's still not the solstice. Now here is one interesting thought though. On December 21st, 2010, there will be a lunar eclipse on that day. December 21st, 2010. There will be a lunar eclipse, but that's not what they're talking about. So talking about any kind of eclipse on 2012, that's the only real eclipse that's actually going to happen. But again, that's happening in 2010, not 2012. So there you go. So that's my rants for that thing. So really, there's really not that much to worry about. I mean, it's much to do about nothing. So there you go. A little bit of education for Nostradamus 2012 for you.